For a whitetail deer hunter, opening day is something we look forward to from the time the previous season comes to a close. There's just something special about starting a new season with new goals and another opportunity to enjoy one of God's greatest creations, the deer woods. You often hear some of the best deer hunters in the country talk about the opportunity that comes with opening day. You know, deer haven't been hunted all year, and typically, early on you can still hold deer to a pattern. Well, in 2005, Mike Rex had an opening day that he will likely never replicate. Now, I do say that reluctantly because when you talk about Mike Rex, this man knows his stuff. A quick search for Mike Rex will show you that he is the real deal. Mike is the former president of the Buckeye Big Buck Club and has 20 record book bucks scoring over 140 inches entered into the club himself. Mike's skills as a deer hunter are exceptional, and this buck was no fluke. Athens County, Ohio is known for producing big monster whitetail bucks. And this is the story of a 218-inch opening day whitetail, the Athens County, Ohio record.
He's really unique in that he's 24 inches inside. His brow tines, one of his brow tines is almost 15 inches. The other one was 14 inches. His typical frame's 200 inches. I've had him on display with the biggest bucks in the world, and he doesn't look out of place. I mean, you can put him with the very biggest bucks ever killed, and you're like, what the hell's that thing doing up there? I mean, you know, he sort of blends in with them. For this area, he's really unique. I mean, this is a good hunting area as far as the Midwest and Ohio goes, but there are better areas of Ohio for really top-end quality bucks. He's the largest buck in the history of this county by 20 inches. If you just took his 4-point typical frame, just his brow tines and his main beams, and you gave him 4 circumference measurements, he would make Buckeye Big Buck as a 4-point. So kind of a unique deer. And I had about 2.5 years of my life into hunting him. Myself and my boys had an area where we could hunt all to ourselves. We didn't own the ground, but an elderly couple that we've been friends with for years gave us permission, exclusive permission. Then we had permission on another piece of ground where it was shared permission. Then there were 3 other guys that I all knew that all had reconnaissance on the deer. They all had trail cameras, and one friend of mine had actually shot him the year before, clipped hair off the top of his back. But it was quite an adventure. I killed him the opening morning of the 2005 season. I did not have him pinned down that year either. It was a year sort of like this year. We had lots of mass, lots of hard mass, lots of acorns. And so the deer in this area, this is mostly wooded, the deer weren't real patternable. They were sort of spread out. But one thing we did have going on that year is we had no rain. It was real dry. We had 57 days of no rain in July, August, and part of in September. And so water was important. It was the only year I can ever remember hunting where water sources in this area really meant something. And I was hunting where there was a water source below me and I was on an oak flat leading to a creek that wasn't flowing, but it had puddles. And actually the hunt, a very memorable hunt. So it's opening morning of bow season, it's October 1st, and I overslept. And my wife, who's really not an avid hunter, but woke me up and said, boy, you're not gonna go hunting today? All you've been doing all summer is worried about this deer. And I thought, okay, I'll go. So it was broad daylight. I went, got in a tree stand, and I'd been sitting there maybe half hour or so, and I saw a doe and 2 yearlings come down a hardwood flat in front of me. And they got about 50 yards out in front of me, and they looked over the bank, and there was a puddle in that creek where the deer had been drinking. And they walked over the bank, and the mom went over the bank, and the 2 yearlings followed him. About a half hour after that, on out the flat, and it's October 1st, so it's still, even though it's an open hardwoods, there's a lot of foliage and it's hard to see. I can see antlers off in the distance, and I saw antlers here, and I saw antlers here. And my first thought was, it's 2 bucks getting ready to square off, or getting ready to spar. And all of a sudden it starts coming towards me, and I realize it's one deer. And he's walking right at me. So he comes right down the flat, follows the exact trail that the doe and the 2 yearlings were on, and he stops right where they stop. And I remember thinking in my mind, oh, he's gonna walk over the bank down to that puddle and walk out of my life. And he stood there for a second. He even looked over the bank down to where those deer were, and then he just wagged his tail and came right towards me. And he got about 25 yards away from me, and something, I don't know if an acorn fell or something, but he was actually facing me, and he heard a noise, he stopped, and he turned and looked the opposite direction and just opened up that pocket 25 yards. And so anyway, I shot him, and there might have been glow knocks at the time, but I didn't have them. But I was shooting white crested arrows that looked kind of like a laser. And I saw the arrow disappear in his chest, so I felt really good about the shot. And I'd had a lot of time at 2.5 years and invested in this buck to think about what I would do. So first thing I did is I got down out of the stand. I didn't go after him. I went and got our wildlife officer, our county game warden. Brought him back with me, showed him, there's my stand, there's my arrow. And the wildlife officer actually started helping me track him. He found the deer. But he tells a funny story. He said, Mike, he said, when you came down my driveway that morning, he said, his driveway was a pretty long gravel driveway, maybe a third of a mile, quarter of a mile driveway. He said, you were going well over the speed limit. He said, and when you got out of your car, he said, you were clicking your heels like a leprechaun. He said, you were jumping up and down. He said, I knew something really exciting had happened. So anyway, that was quite a big deal. But again, 2.5 years of my life tied up into that deer.
Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support what we're doing here at Exodus, be sure to hit the subscribe button or head to our website, exodusoutdoorgear.com, and use the code Whitetail to save 10% off our entire site for a limited time. You can save 10% on the Exodus Render, a Verizon 4G LTE camera backed by our 5-year no BS warranty, or our brand new Exodus MMT arrows, which are tailored built to your hunting specs. Be sure to check that out on our website. Until next time, see ya.